Before we get into anything else, I need you to sit with this for 1 second. A grandfather met his own grandchildren for what is essentially the first time. Not on a Zoom call, not through a leaked photo the rota sold to the highest bidder. In person, at Highgrove. And somehow that's not the headline the tabloid machine wants you focused on. They'd rather you argue about whether Harry caved. They'd rather you debate whether this is some kind of PR chess move. Anything to keep you from sitting with the actual human story underneath it. A father and son finding their way back to each other, one deliberate step at a time. So today we're breaking down exactly what's happening, why the timing is not an accident, why one name keeps getting quietly erased from this entire narrative, and why, even after everything, I think there's real reason for hope here. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why so many royal commentators are suddenly asking the same question and hating that they don't have a clean villain to point to anymore. Let's get into the receipts. Here's what gets buried every single time this story gets told by the institution-friendly press. Harry didn't torch his relationship with his family for fun. He didn't sit down and write a memoir because he woke up one day looking for a fight. He told the truth about growing up under a level of scrutiny most human beings will never experience, inside a system that by his own account has a long documented habit of protecting its image before it protects its own children. And for that, he got branded disloyal, a traitor to the crown, ungrateful. Meghan asked for the bare minimum any new mother, let alone a biracial woman marrying into that institution, should have been guaranteed as a matter of basic decency and duty of care. And for that she got called difficult, cold, calculating. Pick whichever tabloid adjective was trending that week, they cycled through all of them. They didn't leave because they hated this country. They didn't leave because they hated the family. They left because staying meant sacrificing their mental health, their safety, and their integrity. 3 things no institution, royal or otherwise, has the right to demand from anyone. Let's Steelman the other side for a second, because I always try to on this channel. The argument you'll hear from GB News panels and Jeremy Vine callers is usually some version of, the royal family didn't force them out, they chose to leave, so why blame the firm for a rift they created? I understand why that argument sounds tidy, but it completely ignores the part where 2 people repeatedly asked for support and protection, and were, according to their own accounts, met with silence or worse. Choosing to protect yourself from a harmful system isn't the same as creating the harm in the first place. That distinction matters, and it's exactly the distinction the tabloid narrative has spent years trying to blur. Now here's where it gets interesting, because recently a royal commentator with actual proximity to Harry, someone who's worked alongside him, not just speculated about him from a studio desk, said something on air that quietly undercut years of narrative building. She said Charles and Harry have always had a close relationship, that it was strained, not broken. Think about how significant that is. This isn't some anonymous palace source. This is someone who's actually been in the room. And her willingness to say that on national television chips away at the entire villain origin story the press has been selling since 2020, the version where Harry is the reckless son who blew everything up, rather than someone responding to real, documented institutional failures. It also reframes King Charles. Not as some distant, unfeeling monarch hiding behind protocol, but as a father who, underneath the crushing weight of duty and crown, has likely wanted this closeness with his son all along. Strain is not rupture. And I think the coverage over the last several years has deliberately or at best carelessly blurred that line to the detriment of everyone involved, especially the two children caught in the middle of it. Which brings us to the receipts, because now we have real tangible proof that bridges are being rebuilt. Reports indicate Harry recently brought Meghan, Archie and Lilibet to Highgrove, and that King Charles met his grandchildren for what was essentially the first proper time since they were babies. Let that land for a second. A grandfather meeting his own grandchildren for the first real time. Is it bittersweet that it took this long? Absolutely. Should we acknowledge how much irreplaceable time was lost time that never needed to be lost if the family and institution around them had responded to Meghan and Harry's departure with even an ounce of the compassion they were owed? Yes, 100%. We're not here to pretend the last several years didn't happen. But instead of only dwelling on what was lost, I want us to sit just for a moment in what's being repaired. And it doesn't stop there. Harry is reportedly heading back to London for the annual WellChild Awards, an event that has meant an enormous amount to him personally for years. And here's the detail that made me sit up straight. He has apparently accepted an offer from his father to stay at Buckingham Palace during that visit. If you've been following this channel, you'll remember there was real drama around this exact offer just last month, when it reportedly fell through amid disputes over security arrangements. The fact that it's back on the table and that Harry said yes is enormous. This isn't diplomacy for the cameras. This is a family finding its way back to each other in small, deliberate steps. And yes, I already know what corners of the press are going to do with this. They're going to spin it as Harry caving, as him crawling back. So let me be crystal clear with you, squaddies. Reconciliation is not weakness. Wanting your father to know your children is not weakness. Extending grace to a family that hurt you, on your own terms, in your own time, that takes more strength than staying angry ever could. Harry has never asked to be worshipped. He's asked to be understood, to be safe, to raise his children with some version of normal. If this is the beginning of Charles finally offering that in return, I am here for every single step of it. Now I want to address something that's been bothering me every time one of these good news stories breaks. Every time there's a positive development, the coverage almost always frames it the exact same way. Harry is healing the rift. Harry is reaching out. Harry is coming home. And look, that's true, and it matters. But why is Meghan so consistently erased from these conversations, as if she's some background figure with nothing to do with any of it? She is his wife. She is the mother of the children King Charles is only now getting the chance to properly know. She has stood beside Harry through every single part of this journey, the departure, the backlash, the death threats, the lawsuits, a relentless tabloid campaign that has targeted her with a level of viciousness Kate Middleton has genuinely never had to endure for a single day of her royal life. Let's just be honest about that double standard, because the receipts on it are overwhelming. And yet, when something positive happens, somehow the headlines find a way to talk about Harry and his family reconciling with the king, without ever naming the woman who's been standing right beside him through all of it. So let me say something plainly, because it matters on this channel. Any real reconciliation between Harry and his family has to include Meghan, or it isn't real reconciliation. It's not enough for Charles to welcome Archie and Lilibet to Highgrove if Meghan is treated as an afterthought or worse, quietly kept at arm's length as some kind of unspoken condition for peace. They left as a unit. They built their life in Montecito as a unit. If the family genuinely wants Harry back in any meaningful way, they need to understand that Meghan comes with him not as a concession, but because she is his partner and the mother of his children. Full stop. Let's talk timing, because I don't believe any of this is happening by coincidence. Notice that this reported reconciliation effort, the Invictus Games invitation, the Highgrove visit, the WellChild trip, the accepted offer to stay at Buckingham Palace is happening years after the dust from Megxit and Spare settled. Years after the discourse around Harry and Meghan cooled from its absolute fever pitch. I think that timing tells you everything. This isn't a rushed PR move dressed up as healing. This is what happens when people are finally given enough time and enough space to move past real hurt without a camera crew documenting every flinch along the way. And it tells you something important about who's actually initiating this. By most reports, Harry is the one extending the Invictus invitation to his father. Harry is the one who brought his children to Highgrove. Harry is the one who said yes to staying at the palace, despite how badly the last version of that offer fell apart. Think about what that says about him. This is a man who, by his own detailed account, endured real lasting pain inside that family system, and he is still the one choosing again and again to extend his hand first. That is not the behaviour of a bitter or vengeful person, no matter how many opinion columns try to paint him that way. That is the behaviour of someone who wants his children to have a grandfather, who wants to believe healing is possible, and who keeps showing up to make it happen even when it would be so much easier to just stay away for good. I also want to sit with something for a moment, because I don't think this story is as simple as villain versus victim, even though the tabloids have spent years trying to sell it to you that way. I believe Charles loves his son. I also believe Charles, as king, exists inside a centuries-old system that has consistently prioritised the institution over the individual people inside it, and that system failed Harry and Meghan badly. Both things can be true at once. A father can love his son and still have been part of a structure that hurt him deeply. And I think recognising that complexity, instead of flattening it into a tidy headline, is exactly what allows real repair to happen, instead of the shallow photo-op reunion narrative the tabloids love to package up and sell you. So where does that leave us? I genuinely think this is a hopeful moment, and I refuse to be cynical about it, even knowing how many times this family's story has been twisted and sold back to us in whatever version moves the most papers. Archie and Lilibet are getting to know their grandfather. Harry is heading back to WellChild, a cause that has always mattered deeply to him. He's staying at Buckingham Palace. He's inviting his father to Invictus. Every single one of these is a small, deliberate act of extending trust in a relationship that has every reason in the world to stay permanently guarded. And I think that takes a kind of courage people rarely give Harry credit for. So to anyone still calling Harry difficult or disloyal for telling his own story, a man who spent years under surveillance-level tabloid scrutiny, who watched his own mother hounded relentlessly by that same press, who has openly discussed his mental health struggles as a direct result of what he lived through, that man choosing over and over to reach back out to his family is not weakness. It's one of the more quietly powerful things I've seen from any public figure in recent memory. And Meghan, who has weathered a hate campaign most people could not survive with their sense of self intact, deserves far more credit than she gets for supporting him through every bit of it, while raising two small children an ocean away from a family that, in her own words at the time, made her feel unwelcome and unsafe. Now I want to hear from you, squaddies, because this channel only exists because of this community. Do you think this reconciliation is genuine, or is there more happening behind palace doors than what's being reported? Do you think Meghan should be publicly included in these moments the same way Harry is? And what do you think it would actually take for the family to show she's truly welcome, not just tolerated? Drop it all in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, some of the best conversations on this entire channel happen right there in that comment section. If this video resonated with you, if you're as invested in seeing Harry and Meghan finally get the peace and respect they've always deserved, as I am, hit that like button and share this with someone who's been following this story. The algorithm rewards engagement, and every share is one more pushback against years of one-sided, unfair coverage this family has had to endure. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Until next time, Squaddies, stay skeptical of the headlines and keep demanding the receipts.